Well, good morning. It's Monday and it's time to get a little tour of the garden. And today we're also going to talk about shade, different ways to give your plants some relief here as we come into this week of 100+ temperatures. Well, welcome back. Okay, so I've got a lot of new stuff going on in the garden, but as our tour goes, we're gonna kind of try to move pretty quickly so that we can get to the most important part of our video today, and that's where we're gonna go over some different ways that you can bring some shade to your garden. And I'm also gonna give you some direction on an article that I read about microclimates and creating them in your backyard. So we'll chat about that towards the end, but right now, let's see what's growing on. Okay, so the sweet potato bed is finally starting to get some real growth, and I'm really of the mind that I think that these sweet potatoes need more sun. Because they're supposed to be sun loving, and you know my test for things. And look, this leaf is kind of losing some of its greenness, and you can kind of see from this area right now that it's shady over here, and it's shady in this area till about 11 o'clock. And then it gets some sun in the afternoon, and then with the wall and being in between the two houses, it goes kind of back to shade. I mean, there's sun there, and there's a lot of ambient heat over here, I've got to believe, between the wall and the house. So don't be surprised if you see the sweet potatoes make a move over that way. This little squash that looked to be so promising is kind of limping along now. We're gonna cut this one off this week. This seems to be about as big a squash as we can get off here, but it looks happy, and so we're gonna have that to grill this week, plus the zucchini that my husband wouldn't let me cut. The strawberries, haven't made any more strawberries right now, but they look super healthy, so we're just gonna kind of manage how they enjoy this spot. The watermelon, this one has been just kind of on the slow-mo. It's got some flowers, but this one, check out that little mamma jamma. Now, these are personal size watermelons, so they're not gonna get to the giant size watermelons that I grew up eating, but it'll be a nice thing for us to enjoy. And I always go with the personal just because that way I feel like there's less of it to boil inside of itself as we get hot, and maybe the smaller ones have a better chance of surviving. This mystery squash cucumber is going wild. It's all over there, and it's coming out the side over here. This Aussie bean, the beans are getting bigger, so that's exciting to see. And it's bounced back from whatever was going on with it a week or so ago. See this squash, or like I said, whatever it is. But also look, here's the watermelon from over here, and it's come down and it's attached too. So everybody's kind of attaching to each other, but there's a lot of flowers in there. So I'm excited to see what's gonna come from this. This is our okra that we planted. That's another okra right there. That actually looks like something in the cabbage or broccoli family based on those leaves. So maybe somebody dropped some leaves down here. And then over here, this is the stump of the collard green that used to be over here, and this is all growing off of that stump. And this wee little plant here keeps wanting to make flowers, but doesn't seem to make anything bigger than that, and this plant's only maybe 5 inches tall. Now the butternut keeps kind of struggling, but you know, I'm not stressing out. I'm gardening and enjoying life. But it keeps having this tendency to make male or females. There was one right there, and then they just kind of fall off and don't really go anywhere. Whereas our spaghetti squash is just looking amazing. I mean, check that out. This is my hand, and so I'm real curious to see if it's going to get any longer or if now it's just going to get wider. But super happy with that one. And this little runt of a tomato is doing great here in the shade of the collard green. That pepper's making a comeback. I did take like a full cup of seeds off of here, and I've got some more to come and get. I love this plant, and I love what it's doing for natural shade. in this bed, so I can't say if it's gonna get evicted any day soon because it feels like an old friend that's been with me. Now, this is kind of the view of the garden now. You know, there's nothing, as far as like the tomato garden, if you will. So there's nothing really sitting over here. Everything's more kind of hugged up to this area over here. And that's because the trees in the afternoon, as noon goes on, starts to provide some dapple light over here. But we're still going to talk about some things that we could do to bring more shade to this area, even if we still had containers over here in this area. Right now, coming into the flowers, they're, you know, some of them are struggling in the heat. The cornflowers are still happy, making lots of seeds. The Punta Banda is just really blowing up. It's got lots of green tomatoes in there. And these are definitely more of a paste. They're a thick-walled tomato, and I don't really just enjoy them for snacking so much the way that I do with these like cherry tomatoes over here. So the cherry is doing good. It's trying to come out of the top up here of its veil, but it's still making lots of tomatoes. And this one is as tall as me now, and it's definitely an indeterminate because it's continuing to go and go, and it's making lots of nice tomatoes. That one's starting to, well, these are great whites, so I think they probably will only maybe get to a yellow. But look at these beautiful things right here. I mean, I just love that we're finally getting to see some beautiful success. Cutting this biggin today too. That's about as big as it's gonna get. This Cherokee purple, super happy. We've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 Cherokee purples. There's a little baby one. At all different stages, so we're excited to see this big mama start changing colors for us. And this Ace 55 has got some big ones on it. So all the tomatoes are just kind of in a phase of getting ready to red up for us, and we're excited about that. This bed, since we've kind of started doing a flood on it, like when we water, instead of just kind of staying in here, we've been letting this bed completely flood so that it gets a super deep watering. And since then, look at this. I mean, everything is just going wild. This is another view of it so you can just see. That was a little volunteer. Remember the Texas Wild Cherry, one that we pulled out from bed 1. And these are things that have been in this bed for a while, but now that they're getting a lot of good water, they're just happy and they're climbing, and they're gonna do real well. This right here is from the Brussels sprout stump, remember from and it just keeps coming back. So let's see what goes on with that. The flowers are all super happy, and actually we've got a little surprise over here. Look at that. Super big head about to come out of there. And we also had this debut on Sunday. So there's a sweet little sunflower to say hello to you. The mint is just mint wild, and it's awesome. My husband had a sick belly yesterday, and it was so wonderful to come out here and pick fresh mint for him and make some tea, and boom, he felt all better. This oregano going wild. I really got to do some work on that this week. This bed here is beautiful, really it is. So we picked the 2 huge Armenians off this weekend, and this cucumber and that watermelon over there are just crazy filling in this kind of string trellis. And I'm not sure so much if I've gotten any pollination yet. I don't see any fruit that's developed. I see some females, but there's a lot of bee activity. And look, this actually looks like it may have gotten pollinated because I didn't know it was there. And that's again the watermelon from way over there. So we'll just have to see what the bees are doing to help us in this area. And that cantaloupe goes all the way over here. We've still got this wild Texas cherry volunteer. And looking to see what else the Armenian's gonna do. wishing that our tomatillas look like Williams at the East Mesa Urban Homestead. We haven't seen, I keep seeing some flowers come out on the Blue Hubbard, but right now it may just be focused on directing a lot of love down here to this giant thing that, you know, I can get my hand around, but is easily the size of like a cantaloupe right now. And this is the kale that I cut down, and right here is a little okra plant. This tomato has got some wonky things going on, but we're going to talk about that another day, another time. Again, this watermelon is just up here and all the way across there. I just keep winding things in. And this beautiful little okra is down here wanting to start making some okra, so that's fun. And most of my flowers back here are passing on to seed. These ladies do not really enjoy the sun, so I'm going to be able to come in here and get some seeds. See that? Oop, that one fell off in the ground, but that's okay. So I come along here and I collect these seeds, and then I put them on the table and I let them dry out. But a lot of them will fall just in here in the bed, you know, and then they'll get reseeded, and that's kind of the cycle of life. So these will come back up in the fall and maybe in the spring again. So, and this little thing right here, bless its heart, it looked like it got these little black things on it, and my husband gave it a good spray off, and then it acted like it was gone forever, and then lo and behold, it started producing again. So we're grateful for her to be happy again and smiling in the garden. And this one's just continually going crazy. I just constantly come along and take the little dead heads off. Okay, so now we're gonna start talking about different ways to shade your garden. Right now it's 8:32 in the low desert of Arizona, and it's 89 degrees already, and that's pretty much the reality going forward. Our mornings start very early here during the summer, sometimes as early as 5:30. The sun is starting to peek out. So this is important because so many seed packages, or even the little tabs that go down into transplants that you can buy, say this plant needs full sun. Well, in Arizona, full sun obviously means something a lot different than it does to a gardener in Arkansas or Missouri or Georgia or Florida, anywhere else, because our sun is so intense. So when we think about full sun in Arizona, we really need to think about what goes on from the moment the sun comes up until lunchtime, and from lunchtime on is the time that our full sun plants actually need to be getting some type of respite from the sun. You can kind of gauge how things go in your backyard. I highly recommend, you know, taking a hard look at all of your microclimate areas. Look at your fence lines, look at the trees, what is giving you shade when, and what areas feel super hot or super cooler in your yard when it is really hot, and use those areas as best as you can. From there are a couple of things that you can do, and I'm going to show those to you, and from there maybe you'll get a lot of ideas to work with what you've already got. Over here on bed 3, we've got just like kind of the standby of what people think about when they think about sunshade, and this is about a 45 I believe that we got off of Amazon, and I've got more of it somewhere. It's balled up in the garage somewhere, but we usually in the past we've clamped these on to our little trellises here. For today I've just kind of got it propped up on some of my garden and things, but you do want to make sure that when you are using any type of shade cloth that you've got some airflow for your plants, because it's just like leaving a kid in a car. You know, if you completely encase your plants and cover them all the way to the ground in shade cloth, that lack of airflow is going to cause them to suffocate. Another thing that we deal with here in Arizona is the aspiration. So the airflow and the aspiration are really important, and aspiration is the way that the plant moves moisture through its leaves. And because it's so dry here, that's a rapid process that normally for a plant would help it stay cool throughout the day. So a sunshade like this, sun cloth, you can get it at you know, Home Depot. Probably going to get your best savings on Amazon Prime. But then and like I said, just make sure you've got airflow, especially as we come into monsoon season and it gets super windy. You want to make sure that this is clamped down very tightly so that it doesn't cause any mayhem in your garden. But this is one thing that you can do, is get yourself some sun cloth. And I recommend going with like a 45, because if you found that you just had a harsh area that wasn't doing well, you could always, and I did this last year, fold it back over itself, you know, and then you've almost got another layer of protection there. And don't mind that. Like I said, this is just temporary to kind of give you an idea. You remember earlier there was full sun over here on this part of the garden, but I've put our patio or kind of yard umbrella up. And this is another thing that you could do, is if you've already got an umbrella, or you can find a really inexpensive umbrella like in a bulk trash pile, that would be good. Obviously at this time of the year, umbrellas in Arizona are very expensive, but I got this hose set up, an umbrella for $15 and the base for $15, all at Fry's, the grocery store, in August about 2 years ago. So that's the time to buy an umbrella. But if you already have one, I mean, look at this. It's completely changed the shade area of this bed and given, or bed garden area with all the buckets, and given it a lot of shade. That was why I made sure to show you a while ago that that is total light over there. And now we're going to head over to bed 1, and I'm going to show you another thing that you can do that'll even save you some money, because you might have something like this around your house already. We used to be in the drapery business. My mom had a drapery business for about 20 years, and so I've got remnants everywhere. And this is a lace panel that I've used in a couple of different situations in the house. But this is also, if you've got lace panels like this, preferably off-white, and even if this looks white right now, I promise you that it's actually an off-white. But you don't want a plain stark white lace so much, because it would kind of give it that same effect that you get when you see snow and it's kind of blinding. But if you've got an old lace curtain panel or drapery panel or a sheer panel like this, or you could find one at Savers or at Goodwill. This is another thing that you can see is there's still lots of sun coming in there, but this is giving it kind of a dapple light. And this is something, because I think it looks pretty, that I'm looking to use more in the garden. Now, right now, this bed right here in the afternoon for me gets quite a bit of shade, because again, what comes across the trees gives this some respite in the afternoon. But I really feel like that even if I used something like this, it's still going to get a lot of sun, but it's not going to get that scorching effect, because that's the other thing that takes place here in Arizona is it's a sunburn. The leaves themselves can get sunburned, and that's why we see the curling that I had on a lot of the tomatoes that I moved, because they get sunburned, and when that happens, it breaks down the cell wall, it causes damage and a lot of stress to the plant. And when your plant gets stressed out, it's going to stop producing. I hope that you enjoyed those 3 little tips on ways that you can bring some shade into your garden. And I highly recommend you checking out this article on a lady's blog that I follow from Instagram, and the blog is gardeningindedesert.com, and I'll put a link down below to that. But that article really goes in depth for a lot of things that you can do to adjust for microclimates or identifying microclimates in your yard. I'm all about information. I'm constantly learning so that I can help you learn. And so if you like learning like me, definitely go check out that article. I hope that you caught our first episode of the Show and Tell Garden Show out at the East Mesa Urban Homestead with William. We had so much fun. And this week we're going out to Team Benson. They're down in South Phoenix, and we're gonna go see what she's got growing on. Well, until next week, I hope you stay cool, and I hope you keep your plants cool, and Thanks so much always for coming and checking in with us whenever you've got a chance, and have the best day ever.